Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Game of Thrones Winter's Coming. Today we have a quite interesting theme. We are taking a look at how to protect your troops in case of you supporting someone else, or you bubble dropping, or entering further. The main reason for why it is important to protect your troops is fairly simple. First of all, troops are needed for the entire events and game in general. And the second thing being, for example, you can see here with roughly 10k tier 4 troops, that it takes roughly 3 days and 9 hours to produce them. This of course is also changed depending on your training speed. If you have lower training speed or higher training speed, then the days change. But also the costs are quite high as well to actually produce them. Because of that, it's quite important to actually keep your troops and in general also your speed ups and resources invested safe, or as safe as possible. And Game of Thrones allows you to do that in various ways, as long as you do not overproduce too many troops to the point where you can't hide them. And we are going to take a look at some of those options right now. The first option to how you keep your troops safe is also together with your main lord. If you have your main lord in your castle and want to keep it safe, which is the shelter. And the shelter has various ways to actually be upgraded. You can see here, for example, that you have the building bonus on 275k. I believe that the glory level on castle actually increases the shelter capacity. Then there's of course the research. There's a specific research that allows to increase the shelter capacity by 50,000, and then there's also cast exteriors, where a lot of them, at least some of them that are in the recruitment pass that are not that expensive to get, also have the shelter capacity limit increase. And the shelter has this lovely function that it can hide X amount of troops along with your main lord, if you check the box up here. And you can hide them for 1 hour, 4 hours, 8 hours or 12 hours. And this basically means that these troops will not participate in battle. The same applies to your main lord. And they can't be killed, or they can't be taken, or anything like that, no matter how many times they attack your castle. The important thing of course is that you of course check out this box if you want your main lord hidden, and that you also keep in mind that you can hide the lord for a maximum of 12 hours, or your troops for 12 hours. After that they will be inside your castle and can be attacked again, so keep that in mind when you're going out, when you're supporting someone or generally doing some stuff. That's one way to keep your troops safe. And like I said, the amount of troops that you can hide depends on your research level, castle exterior and so on. So there are of course more options to actually hide your troops, and we're going to go through two more of them, which is the garrison and reinforce options. And these are a little bit tricky depending on the situation, because it first of all shows that you are trying to hide your troops, and second of all it also puts you into fervor. So if you haven't dropped your bubble, then garrisoning or reinforcing someone will make your bubble drop automatically, and you will have fervor. And depending on your level, castle level and so on, then that fervor will run up to 15 minutes where you can't put on a bubble at all, where you will be able to be attacked. So make sure that if this happens, then you have at least your main lord and your troops hidden inside the shelter. Like I said before, if you are not that big of a castle, you can take a hit. Otherwise try to hide your lord or your troops in nearby castles. And the way to do it is quite simple. You have to be in the same alliance to actually be able to do it, as the person that you're trying to hide your troops inside. And then when you click on a castle, you can basically see that there is a reinforce button and a garrison button. If you click on garrison, you can see that it will actually make my troops go away, and I will enter a favor status if I confirm to it. And the same can be said for the reinforcement, you can see that the castle that I'm sending to has a max reinforcement capacity of 1.1 million. And in most cases people can't send that much, but it also depends on your army size and so on, in terms of how you're saving your troops. But you can send them out, and you have to do it quite quickly, because once the enemy notices that you're sending it out, then they will probably start hitting you, unless they're scared that hitting you will actually, or it's a trap. You can also use a trap if you only send like one troop out and someone thinks you're emptying out and rushes in to solo hit you. That's also a way to actually hit someone, or catch someone off guard. But keep in mind, you're still going into fervor and you still have to get the troops back at some point as well, which can be really difficult. I can't remember if you are able to put out a or put on a bubble while you're having reinforcements out, but either way, just make sure that the castles that you're putting your reinforcements or garrison in are bubbled and they can't be hit there. Also keep in mind, if the person that you are hiding your troops in is moving away or has basically moving out somewhere on the map, then your troops will be automatically sent back and they can be hit again. So make sure that you're talking with the people around you when you're basically hiding troops in there. One more option to hide your troops is actually quite interesting one, but it's also a little bit risky, which is something called a ghost rally. And the ghost rally works in a way that you find a rebel camp, preferably far away from you, at a random number, and you initiate a rally on it, and then you pick the 480 minutes time, which is basically, I believe, 8 hours time, where you can put in an entire deployment, and I believe your main lord as well, and those troops, while they are preparing for that rally, can't be hit at all, and it's also hard to notice when that actual rally is done, or basically that you're cancelling the rally, so have your troops home. So it's a really good way if you, for example, have a 600k or 800k army size or something like that, depending on if you use this army size increase or not, that you can have your shelter troops and the rally troops, and if you basically cancel out both of them, you will probably have over 1 million troops, maybe over 1.5 million troops inside your castle suddenly, and then it becomes not as easy to solo you down. And if you get one or two of your reinforcements called back into the castle in time, then you basically have a full army inside, and then might actually require you to be rallied rather than solo attacked, unless it's someone that's very strong compared to you. Downside to this method is that you can only initiate one rally per account, and also if you are doing it on other accounts or with other people, then you also have to make sure that these people cancel the rally, or that you have contact with them that they cancel the rally at the right time, because if they just cancel in the middle of it, then your troops return and you can be hit. And the other issue is also that once you send troops out to a rally, you have no way of recalling them unless that the rally leader is there to actually call back your troops. So that's something you have to keep in mind when you're doing the ghost rally method, but it's something that can be done. It's also usable in certain situations, and it also is a fast recall option for you, so you don't have to worry about your troops getting melted one by one, like with the reinforcement when you're calling them back one by one. The last thing that you can do, which for me is a last resort or last option, is to actually put your troops to walk towards a node that's very far away. The benefit of that is that usually, because the marching speed for nodes is a lot slower, it's a dependent buff, you can say like that, or dependent stat in here, then they walk slower, so it gives you some time to actually go there and also go back. The issue with this method is that it actually doesn't really hide your troops in the sense that people can see where the troops are walking to which nodes and so on, and it's possible to actually stay on the node and wait for you to come if you have if you're without bubble, because it will basically initiate a fight that way, or they can actually clean the node so you can't hide your troops on it and they will walk back. Of course it takes a long time to actually walk there, and you're also able to put out a full deployment, and basically you can see here marching time, like marching speed 131, gathering marching speed 30.7%. So it's like there's like some independent stats that are going over. You can send out a full army if you want to on a node. The good thing about it, if you're calling back your troops all at the same time, and if you can actually take a solo, is that you can try and time your backs so that they all arrive, like all armies arrive at the cast at the same time. The issue is if it takes longer than 5 minutes or something like that, then you can actually be rallied at the exact time that that your troops are coming back home. And if I'm not entirely sure if the enemy can see, if they click on your army while they're walking back, they can see how many minutes there's until it reaches back to your home. But if they can, then it also kind of indicates when your troops are coming, and then it can be planned around. So personally, I will only use this method as a last resort method if you don't have anything else. Of course, if you already have a bubble up and just want to annoy some people and so on, that's the way to do it basically, because they can't really catch your nodes that easily. But yeah, this is kind of like the main points on how to protect your troops and what you can do in certain situations. Before finishing the video, we can of course do some talking about some special methods, you could say. It's not really methods that are guaranteeing your troops, but it actually helps you a little bit in terms of safety. One of the things that you can do is that you can use your army size increase, and that way you can increase the army size that you have going out somewhere, and it allows you to hide a bigger amount of armies. For example, if you're doing a ghost raid, you can hide a big amount of army in there, and if you're reinforcing garrisoning, you can also do the same there. It also applies to nodes. It doesn't apply to shelters, sadly. That's the only thing it doesn't apply to, but all the other methods it applies to, and that way you can basically instead of maybe having to go do 5 marches or 6 marches, you can maybe do 4 marches or 3 marches, depending on the army size increase that you have and the army that you have. And that's also something, if you're deciding to play as a zero castle, try to not go over your emptying limit, which is the amount of marches you have, combined with your shelter size, and also combined with your army size increases that you have available. So for example, for me, if I said I had an army size of 600, I know that I have 6 marches maybe. That means that I can have 3.6 million troops that I can hide, and then I also have the shelter size on 825k, so that means that I could have 4.5 million troops without having to really worry about getting hit hard. If I have then army size increase on top of that, then I can basically hide even more troops, and that way you can actually hide your troops, and then it will be also required for them to rally you, so there's like this depth of their strategy that way. Worst case scenario, if something does hit you and something happens, then there's always the hospital. I would personally recommend you to have a certain amount of hospital size. I have 672k, and that kind of mitigates some of the damage that you take. Of course, healing is super expensive still and also takes time, but at least it allows you to not having to recreate your troops from scratch. And if I remember correctly, then it prioritizes your strongest units, which will be T4 in my case, putting them into the hospital. But I personally would prefer, if you're in danger of being attacked, save your strongest units first, and then if you get hit, then let the weaker units die, because they are easier to replace and cost less to replace. But this was kind of like the main points of how you can protect your troops and how you can like work around as a zero cast if you want to. I hope you liked the video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, of course, like and comment if you have something that you want me to look at or talk about. And if you want to play the game, there's the link down in the description below, and so is a link for the Game of Thrones Discord group, and there's also going to be a link for the channel where I got my music from. So yeah, I wish you all a great weekend. I hope you have a good time. Merry Christmas to all that are celebrating it, and see you all next time. Bye bye!